December 26, 1900. The relief ship Hesperus approached Eilean Mòr, but no lighthouse keeper appeared beside the landing place. The captain sounded the horn, then fired a signal rocket. The island answered with waves, wind, and an unlit tower. Relief keeper Joseph Moore climbed ashore alone, crossed the closed gate, and entered a station that felt abruptly abandoned. The beds were empty, the fireplace cold, and the kitchen silent. Upstairs, however, the lighthouse machinery was perfectly prepared. 3 experienced men had vanished from a bare island surrounded by ocean, leaving no bodies, confession, or final confirmed message. 11 days had already passed since anyone could prove they were alive, and the sea had erased whatever happened next. The Flannan Isles lie far west of Scotland's Isle of Lewis, a remote cluster once called the Seven Hunters. The lighthouse stood on Eilean Mòr, a 38-acre island of cliffs, steep landings, violent water, and almost constant isolation. Its white tower rose above a 200-foot cliff, sending 2 bright warning flashes across the Atlantic every 30 seconds. The station had operated for barely 1 year when James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald McArthur began their final watch. Ducat was the principal keeper, experienced and trusted. Marshall was his assistant. McArthur was temporarily replacing a sick colleague. Their work demanded routine clean the lens, trim the lamp, record weather, maintain equipment, and watch the sea continuously. Relief arrived only every 2 weeks, and in bad weather, the keepers could remain cut off far longer than planned. There was no regular telephone or radio connection, so a failed light might remain unnoticed until somebody happened to report it. At midnight on December 15th, the passing steamer Archdor recorded that the Flannan Lighthouse could not be seen burning. The observation reached port, but it was not passed to the Northern Lighthouse Board before the scheduled relief journey. Bad weather then delayed Hesperus, leaving the silent lighthouse completely alone until the ship finally arrived on December 26. Moore immediately noticed the missing flag and unusual absence on relief day when keepers normally prepared to receive supplies. After the unanswered horn and rocket, he landed and climbed the steep route toward the lighthouse with growing dread. The compound gate was closed. The entrance doors were closed, yet one kitchen door farther inside stood strangely open. Moore found no overturned battle scene, no blood, and no obvious struggle in the station suddenly missing its entire crew. The fire had apparently been cold for days, while the beds looked as though the men had left that morning. He hurried back toward the landing, telling the waiting crew that the lighthouse was deserted, and something serious had happened. Moore returned with other men and searched again, this time examining the light room, stores, bedrooms, and surrounding buildings carefully. The lamp had been cleaned, the fuel fountain filled, the lens polished, and the blinds arranged in proper working order. Pots and pans had been cleaned, the kitchen tidied, and the morning duties of December 15 had apparently been completed. 2 sets of outdoor oilskins were missing. A third set remained, suggesting one keeper had rushed outside without proper protection. The official log ended on December 13th, but weather readings through the morning of December 15th remained written on a slate. That detail narrowed the disappearance. The men were likely present that morning, then gone before the light should have operated. Searchers crossed the entire island, checked cliffs, caves, paths, buildings, and both landing places. They found no human trace. The eastern landing appeared normal. The western landing looked as though the Atlantic had climbed the cliffs and attacked it. Heavy ropes had been torn from storage, iron railings twisted, and a life buoy ripped from its secured position. A wooden rope box had disappeared from a rocky crevice, roughly 110 feet above the surrounding sea level. Even a stone weighing more than a ton had been displaced and carried downward onto the concrete path below. Superintendent Robert Muirhead knew all 3 missing keepers personally and carefully examined the island several days after Moore's discovery. He concluded that Ducat and Marshall had probably gone toward the western landing after seeing storm damage or loose equipment. McArthur may have followed during an emergency, leaving without oilskins and breaking the rule that one keeper remained inside. Then, Muirhead believed, an unexpected enormous wave struck the exposed landing and swept all 3 men into the sea. The damage made this explanation plausible, but plausibility is not proof, and the Atlantic returned none of the men. Why would 3 experienced keepers approach the landing together, when regulations and common sense required someone to stay behind? What emergency could pull McArthur outside without waterproof clothing, yet leave enough time for every interior duty to appear completed? If one man was taken first, did the others rush downward to help and disappear beneath a second wave? Or did loose equipment draw 2 men outside before a sudden accident forced the third to abandon the tower? No witness saw the final minutes. No surviving note described danger. Every sequence begins with assumptions after the men were gone. The famous story often includes an unfinished meal, an overturned chair, and strange diary entries describing fear and unnatural storms. But those dramatic details come largely from later poetry, repeated retellings, and invention, not the surviving official investigation records. There is no verified log entry saying one keeper cried, another prayed, or that calm weather surrounded an impossible storm. Removing those additions makes the story less supernatural, but perhaps more disturbing. Ordinary evidence still ends without an answer. Over time, theories expanded beyond the official wave explanation: murder, madness, abduction, sea creatures, foreign agents, and supernatural forces. None produced evidence stronger than the damaged landing, the missing oilskins, and the empty Atlantic surrounding lonely Eilean Mòr. The lighthouse continued operating, but later keepers inherited a station where 3 trusted men had disappeared during normal duty. Ducat left a wife and 4 children. McArthur left a wife and 2 children. Their families received no final certainty. Official records listed probable drowning, carefully acknowledging that even the authorities could not say precisely how the men died. The sea may have taken them in seconds, through one wave, 2 rescue attempts, or a chain of smaller mistakes. Yet the central mystery remains unchanged. 3 men completed their morning work, walked outside, and were never seen again. Every 30 seconds, the restored lighthouse kept flashing over the same water that refused to return a single answer.